Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Author's Corner, brought to you by KNEO 91.7 FM, The Word. I'm Roberta Foster, and today I welcome Jayna Breigh to Author's Corner, and she has written the book An Appearance of Impropriety, a novel which is published by Kregel Publications. She'll tell you more about how to find the book at the end of the program. Let me give you just a little insight into Jayna. She's a retired attorney now living in the southeastern United States. She draws on a decade of high net worth trust and estate litigation in Los Angeles and crafts sophisticated romantic legal dramas where the law collides with matters of the heart. When she's not writing, Jayna also enjoys speaking at events, binge-watching British period dramas, and tackling challenging word games. So, Jayna, thank you so much for being with us on Author's Corner.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so you spoke about being a retired attorney, and now you're a full-time writer. How did that transition, or what led you to transition from the attorney world to the writer world?
Well, I practice law in Los Angeles, and my husband and I had an opportunity to move to the East Coast to do some work at a Bible college, and also my husband's job was based on the East Coast. He's now a retired captain from United Airlines. But we decided, hey, living in California, but his job being based in New Jersey just quite didn't work. So we moved to the East Coast, and then I started homeschooling my children. And I found that as I was sitting at t-ball games and other kids' sports that I had some time on my hands in the stands, and I was a reader of Christian fiction, so I thought, why not try my hand at some Christian fiction?
And how many books have you now written?
The total written books is 5. Total published books is 2.
Okay. So there's more to come.
Yeah.
All right. So you had your hands in the legal world, and so there's different legal procedures that you include in the book. So are those accurate to the legal world, or are they just part accurate?
I try to make things as accurate as possible,
Great.
But there's so much that happens in the law that you don't see behind the scenes. Letter writing, telephone calls. So I only hit on the highlights. I will say that in my books, some of the courthouses and offices are fictionalized to bring drama to the story. I haven't been in every nook and cranny in the Los Angeles County Courthouse, so I fictionalized some of that. And also I took some dramatic license again with some of the buildings and some of the locations, but I loved Los Angeles when I lived there, and it is my adopted hometown, so I try to make it an accurate backdrop, and I try to keep the law as realistic on the page as I can.
Wonderful. All right, so The Appearance of Impropriety is your newest novel, and it has a very captivating cover. So tell us about how the story came about.
This story came about through several things. Number one, when you are an attorney, you often have an opportunity to work with judges on community service projects. And a lot of lay people don't know this because you just kind of can't see it. But you work on a community service project helping educate young people about the judicial system or working on legislation. But also, those are sometimes the judges that you appear before. So I was often on this committee in the probate estates and trust section of the Los Angeles County Bar. And I would also be there with judges and commissioners who would be later hearing cases. So there's a line that you cannot cross. Otherwise, there's an appearance of impropriety.
Yeah.
You have to, at all times, be above board with the judges. They must be above board with you, and there could be no underlying things that could call into question the judge's impartiality. So I just thought that would be a great sort of line to play with in a book, and I think the title is very provocative, and I thought something that the average layperson just doesn't know, that, your judge. Another example is we had a case that I tried in Palm Springs, and the judge on that case was the next-door neighbor of our opposing counsel.
Oh.
Well, the judge offered to recuse himself. I mean, if you're getting somebody's mail when they're going on vacation, maybe feeding their cats when they're out of town, do you want that judge to be judging your client? But we decided that we didn't see an appearance of impropriety, but there were just several things that popped up in my practicing life that I thought, this would be a nice tension to play with.
All right. Well, and one of the things as far as your storyline goes is Junior Jurors. And so is that a reality? And what is it that they do?
Okay, so the Junior Jurors itself is made up.
Okay.
But I based it on mock trial programs that lots of high schools across the country have, where there's debate teams, there's mock trial teams. And so I thought, what if I doubled up on what a mock trial team did and brought it into a courthouse and made it a community service project? And again, judges and lawyers do all kinds of community service projects, so I decided, hey, let's bring one in-house inside the courthouse that a judge and a lawyer work on to, again, ramp up that sort of tension.
Yeah, sounds exciting. All right, so today I'm talking with Jayna Breigh regarding her book, An Appearance of Impropriety, which is published by Kregel Publications, and you're listening to Author's Corner, and I'm Roberta Foster. Okay, so we've given kind of the parameters of the story, so why don't you introduce us to your main characters?
Sure. So attorney J.D. Cash is what is known as a plaintiff's attorney with the polite word, but in the not polite word, it's ambulance chaser. And so he tries big rig tractor trailer cases and tries to win money for widows and orphans who lost their primary breadwinner because of negligence in this case, I invented a fictional trucking company that is just completely reckless and just a rolling time bomb on the freeways. So his life's mission is to protect widows and orphans and to hopefully, the money doesn't bring their loved one back, but hopefully bring them some financial security. So that's my hero. And my heroine is Judge Mahalia Jackson. She is the youngest sitting female judge in Los Angeles County ever. She's super ambitious, and her goal one day is to maybe be a presiding judge or even maybe ascend to the federal bench. But in the book, she's just trying to get to assistant presiding judge, and she's a take-no-prisoners kind of high-octane woman, and she ends up having to be on Jimmy Dean Cash's case, presiding over that for a little while, and then she also ends up on the Junior Jurors, so there's lots of tension.
And you just described her very well, but she has a mentor that says, hey, you need to find some heart that people will know you about rather than this maybe austere is the word that came to my mind, not necessarily your words, but this austere judge.
Absolutely. I love having a sort of Gandalf, Dumbledore kind of character in my books, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is able to say things to characters that their friends or loved ones might not be willing to say. And so I brought the judge into her life to prod and poke her and to nudge her and to encourage her to be the best version of herself that she could be.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing you include in your book is a lot of real-life issues. And I haven't read all of your book, so I didn't find all of these yet. But it includes AI, social media, earthquakes. That's a whole lot to include in one book.
I did throw a lot in there. And, the one that I kind of came in at the end as the book was coming together is this new thing of name, image, and likeness for collegiate athletes. It's blown up. When I was writing it, it was just sort of starting that it had been accepted as something that, previously amateur athletes can now sort of make money on their own name, image, and likeness. But I remember a friend in law school, which was many, many years ago, who actually wrote a paper about it. This thing has been bubbling around for like 20, 30 years, but it's finally come to fruition. So I put a little bit of that in there, too.
And then you also have a faith message, which is what includes your book in the Christian genre. So tell us about the faith message that you included and what you want your readers to take away from in this book.
Absolutely. So Judge Mahalia Jackson has her ladder against the wrong wall, is the way I think the expression goes. She's climbing. She would like to climb socially. She would like to climb professionally. But in the end, all of that, it does not get you anywhere in eternity. All of the accolades from man, all of the position and the power. So she comes to, and her grandfather was a pastor, so she comes to a realization that, yes, these things are okay to have, but ultimately you have to surrender your life to Christ, and that is the only thing that ultimately matters. And Jimmy Dean Cash has a faith journey as well, which is realizing that being a workaholic and grinding is not a satisfactory life either, and that he cannot save the world. So he's trying to save the junior jurors. He had hoped to save his mother, but ultimately that also is in God's hands, and you have to let that go. So I always have a faith arc for both of my characters, or all of my main characters in all of my books, and so these two have their own separate faith journeys.
Well, that's wonderful. Certainly struggles that we all face with some of these issues that you've included in your book. So as you are writing the plot or creating the plot in your own mind and then putting it to paper, I see this question offered different times. What surprised you? And that always surprises me, that as the author would be surprised by something in their writing. But was there a twist that the Lord led you to include that, I guess, kind of surprised you?
Yes. So a little tiny bit of backstory. I had written the entire book, and then you do what's called developmental editing, where your editors look at it and say, it's strong in these places, but it's weak in these places.
Okay.
And I really needed to amp up the tension and the back door suspense. So by the time I got to the end, so many things had changed in the book because I was really trying to focus on making sure that I kept secrets from the reader and that I gave them red herrings. And I'm not going to give anything away, but in the last chapters of the book, I shocked myself. I remember sitting back to see it and like, wow, that's great.
Well, that certainly must make writing fun, because if you can surprise yourself with the words that you write, that's pretty good. Okay, so one of the things that was mentioned as far as current events is the whole issue of AI, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but how is that? How do you feel that is something that is going to affect the literary world?
It's going to have an interesting effect on the literary world because it's not going to go away.
Right.
Number two, it's being incorporated into everything. So I know that there are some authors that think that they can avoid AI entirely, but even now, if you do a Google search, Google's using AI on the back end. Or I had to call my doctor the other day, and an AI assistant answered the phone. I couldn't get a human. I had to deal with AI. So I think that publishers and writers are going to have to work hard to make their books authentic, but work hard to make them, human created. But I do not think that AI can be avoided 100% because it's behind a lot of the things that you don't even realize are AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just one of these that I grow weary of even looking at Facebook anymore because there's just so much AI-generated stuff. And it's like, wait, isn't this supposed to be interpersonal connections, not AI connections?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So it's going to be a tricky thing to navigate so that readers are getting authentic, genuine content, and also grappling with the fact that AI is coming whether we want it to or not.
Right.
And so how are we going to put up proper boundaries and parameters?
Okay, so Jayna, tell us what's on the horizon as far as your publications.
So I have a Christmas novella coming out with Kimberly Woodhouse and Sarah Haymaker, and I believe that releases in October. And so it's 3 books in one, and at this point I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but mine is a romantic legal drama.
Okay.
That's my field.
That's your thing.
That's my thing. So but it's a suspense Christmas. So all of the books in there have some sort of suspense, and romantic legal drama is sort of a sub-species of suspense. There's not always somebody chasing you with a gun, but it's the courtroom drama or the legal drama or the legal case that brings the drama.
All right. Well, today I've been talking with Jayna Breigh about her book, An Appearance of Impropriety. So before you leave us, Jayna, tell our listeners how they can find out more about this book and others that you've written.
Sure. So I am everywhere on the internet at JaynaBreigh. If you type that into Google, it pulls up all of my social media accounts and my website.
Thank you. One more time, the book today, An Appearance of Impropriety, written by Jayna Breigh and published by Kregel Publications. We appreciate them sending us a copy of the book. And Jayna, thank you so much for being with us on Author's Corner.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And to our listeners, if you'd like to hear this interview again or share it with someone else, you can find it on your favorite podcast platform or go through kneo.org. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Roberta Foster on the Author's Corner. Join me again next time.